I find that we do 2 or 3 episodes every time we sit down. That's not any news to anybody, but I find that the more risque topics kind of come better after we've had 3 or 4 extra waters, just because our bladders are full.
Okay, so you want to do
both
a serious
like
one?
water. No, we're drinking whiskey. Let's be honest.
We can whiskey all day long.
You know what? I'm excited. You talk to me about your. Can we start off with the conspiracy theory one?
Let's do a conspiracy theory.
I don't know what's coming down the line but you and I talk about this when we get to having a couple of wiggly pops.
Let's talk conspiracy theory.
So what's your definition of a conspiracy theory?
Let's find out.
Let's get into it. Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there is a definition. And you know why? Because the one thing I've been learning that no matter what especially on conspiracy theories, because they're questionable things, they are ideas or stories on something that may or may not be true.
A lot of them turn out to be true.
Yeah.
Years later, right? I assume that you're going to go down the JFK rabbit hole because all those have been released, all the paperwork.
I am not.
That's not on the list,
No,
eh?
I took it off because I know that you're a huge aficionado of that.
I'm a big aficionado. But a lot of things, the 9/11 stuff and the way buildings collapse or, the Oklahoma City bomb, they're all good to me. I enjoy all of them. Aliens
I think they're all,
Earth and
there's a lot. I wanted to narrow it down to a few for this episode. We can definitely get way deeper, but I didn't want to go too deep.
I'm going to say this before we get too deep, and I could do a week-long podcast. We could do this every day for a week, and I'd be happy because we'd go through them all. But I will say where I draw the line. I'm happy to discuss, was it the magic bullet theory of JFK? I'm happy to discuss if buildings fall a certain way. I draw the line at flat earthers.
Oh, I never.
Is that on your list?
No, but
I draw the line at flat earthers. I've traveled the globe. There's no merit to it. There's merit to the
you know what there is?
No, you're not gonna.
I'm gonna.
Oh, we can't be friends, and I'm enjoying.
No. I'm not saying this is true, but this was funny. There was a room full of people, and this guy said,
"Yeah, fire away.
Here's the Earth." Guy said, "Here's an airplane," and I'm gonna switch hands. Here's the Earth. It's round.
Yeah,
it's supposed to be a ball. And here's the airplane. We're gonna fly to South Pole.
Yeah,
and we're flying.
Yeah.
No, the plane's upside down. He goes, those planes can't fly upside down.
Oh my God, this is somebody's theory?
Yeah.
By that rationale, everybody in China right now is falling out of their bunk beds because they're upside down.
His thing was, and the funny thing is everyone in the room was like,
they gave him merit?
We don't, maybe, is that a thing? So explain it. How does it work?
Well, you're asking me to explain it? It's the gravitational pull, you moron.
I get that.
That's like saying right now on the other side of the world, people are standing upside down from us.
So how does this plane not go upside down?
Gravity.
It pulls it to the Earth.
It's a theory of this is the whole.
No, it pulls it to the Earth, right?
Earth.
That's what gravity is. But
right.
So that plane is still upside down, though.
Yeah. But, okay, you're having the same argument. This is literally Einstein's theory of relativity. If you're in your car, right? You and your wife and kid are in your car, and you're traveling from the sun to the Earth at light speed.
Yeah.
And your kid in the back seat throws a tennis ball to his mom in the front seat. Is that tennis ball going faster than the speed of light? No, it's relative to the environment that you're in. It's the very theory. I'm not having this conversation. Okay. My God.
No, this is what's funny because everyone was a scholar at this event and everyone had their own theory, but no one actually answered how that works.
Then there were no scholars in the event. These are the morons on TikTok right now standing behind a towel in front of a mirror going, how's it see me? How's it see me?
You're the same. No one answered. No one could answer.
No one answered what?
Everyone knows why the plane doesn't fall off.
Because of gravity.
Gravity.
The theory of relativity is you're relative to where you are on Earth at that time. Nobody's upside down in China.
So basically what that theory is that it does this kind of a thing. That's what the theory behind that is.
But that's not accurate.
But now it can't because the plane can't land upside down.
The rotation of the Earth.
You're still going from point to point. So this is interesting because this is what the gentleman was saying about this. And this is why conspiracy theories are awesome because I understand it and I get it. But he had a very valid point. He did it a lot more elaborate than I'm doing. I'm just kind of gimmicking this. But it was a very valid point. And then a bunch of people in the room were like, oh, no, it's because of this. I'm like, okay, but still, how do you, the plane's upside down.
Yeah.
Right? On a ball, it's upside down. Is it upside down?
Is the moon landing on your top 5?
Or is it this?
Is the moon landing on your top 5?
It is.
Okay, well, list your 5. Let's go through them one at a time. Because the moon landing will solve all of this. I've been to NASA. there were 20,000 employees working that day in one room. That's one hell of a cover up.
Okay, so I'm going to. I'll just do what I hear on the opposite side. I know what I believe.
Yeah.
We'll just do. Oops, this is our list.
This would be interesting because I probably believe.
You want to do that one first? You want to do moon landing first?
Whatever you want to do, buddy. Let's go through your list.
Okay, so the first one was, and this is this isn't my personal list. This is just one that was the more popular ones. But I did take a few away because I knew that you were pretty coherent on these. Now, so I'm assuming you're going to be coherent on all of these, but I know the JFK one, you were like you studied half your life on. It is, the noise gate's working really too good. So the first one is, are we living in a simulation?
I like this
or
one.
Artificial reality.
Okay.
And
are we living in the Matrix?
Yes, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to say I'm the world's best expert at this, but I will say I don't believe that we are, obviously. However, if we were, we wouldn't know it. Also, I watched Elon Musk do a thing about this 4 or 5 years ago. He's very, very intelligent in artificial intelligence and all these other things. And he said, you can't count out anything. Yeah. And I mean, this is one of the world's topmost brains. And he says, you can't count out any. Are we? 99% says no, but there's a chance that we are. And if we were, we wouldn't know it.
It's a very big growing.
But there's a growing, it's a valid conspiracy theory. I don't know that it has merit, but I'm not going to say that I'm intelligent, but I could say if I were in a room with 50 scholars who could all give valid points, I might leave there a little more convinced than I am now.
Yeah.
It's theoretically possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I think that's where I go. That's where, growing up, this is the way it is. So that brings me to the point, and I'm going to try and play devil's advocate on all of these. The point was when you said it's obviously a conspiracy theory that it's a simulation. So what if we actually are a simulation and real life is the conspiracy theory? Why does it always automatically have to be what you automatically think?
Yeah. Well, by that rationale, I mean, now you're dipping into the realms of religion and the afterlife.
Yeah, those are, we didn't go into those, but.
There was a very good one. It's topic but off topic, and it was a guy arguing religion. And I'm not a religious person, but I can make all the arguments. What's after life? Yeah. Oh, we just go to a magic cloud place where we don't require food and souls exist and blah blah blah. And this guy got on, and it was a very intelligent argument. And I'm not preaching his argument; I'm just repeating it.
Sure.
So don't choose. Yeah. And he says, imagine two babies, twin brothers in a womb. And they're both looking at each other, communicating through, I don't know, telekinesis, whatever they do in the womb. And they're attached to a tube that feeds them every day in complete darkness in water. Mm-hmm. And one says to the other, what do you think is going to happen after we're done in this place? And he says, well, we're going to be out in a place with no water.
Yeah.
Air. And we won't need a tube to eat. We'll just grab whatever we see around us and put it in our mouths, and it'll be all of our nutrients. And we won't communicate this way anymore. It'll be verbal.
Yeah.
And the other baby's like, what are you talking about? What's a verbal? And what's food? And how would we breathe without water? Like, none of what you're saying makes any sense because they're so involved in their reality that nothing else can be a thing. So if you're making an argument for the afterlife, that's a pretty good argument. Yeah. That's a great way to view it.
Yeah.
Right? We've just accepted and, gotten happy with where we are in our theories on everything. But as far as are we living in a simulation? When you watch The Matrix, there's some valid points in there. Mm-hmm. If we are, why? First of all, what's the point of the simulation?
Once again, what is the point of anything? Like, this is where it becomes very like. So one of the theories that I had heard about it was, there was so many. I wish I would have wrote some of them down because it just became like, oh my god, oh my god. But it was basically like we are a repetition of a simulation. So essentially what we're doing right now is creating AI, which in turn will simulate something, which will in turn simulate life into a different form. And then it'll just keep carrying on. So it'll just keep simulating and simulating.
No, I like these. I often on socials and whatnot, you see the whole glitch in the matrix things where you see a bus and then the bus isn't there. You're like, whoa, what just happened? But it's always digital.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what
it's
happened.
Always
digital. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what happened. But if we were, just throwing this out there, let's say we were in a video game or The Sims or whatever you want to be. I've played video games back in, I don't play them anymore. You're a bit of a gamer, or at least have conscious of it. where you think, oh, I've just beat that game. And then all of a sudden you realize, I'm going to be old here and date myself, but hey, did you know in level 4-3 of Mario Brothers, there's a secret brick where you can get up and there's a whole other world? And you're like,
It
what?
actually is, yeah.
And then last week, we find 8 cylinders underneath the Great Pyramids. And I'm like, game changer. Everything we've thought for 2,000 years.
Okay, so this goes back to that
Is this a new level?
This is
we unlock something?
This goes back to what I was just saying. Why is it a conspiracy theory if it's completely opposite to what you believe? Like, what have we been taught? Have we been taught wrong, or have we been taught what we've been taught to believe a certain way? Now, the Bible, I think, does that, and I never understood that until I read the Book of Enoch, which was missed out of the Bible. Enoch was only mentioned twice, like the Dead Scrolls.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So and that became then the Bible started to cherry pick what stories they wanted to put in there. So now I was like, that's interesting.
So I have the answer. And last week I would not have had this answer, but sometimes things happen for a reason. And it's, who's the comedian that's very, very vocal about atheism? Hosts the Grammys all the time, English chap.
Yeah.
The
Not
Invention of Lying.
Bill Engvall? No.
God, he starred in the movie The Invention of Lying. Anyway,
I know
we
who
can
you're
both picture
talking
him. He's educated. He's not a dick about anything. He goes, listen, there's 3 who's on a talk show with Stephen Colbert. They were having a very good debate.
I just watched that.
Did you?
Yeah, I just watched it
He's like,
last
there's
night.
3,000 religions in this world. You don't believe in 2,999 of them. I don't believe in one more.
Yeah.
But what he said in there, and this one floored me, is he was talking about...
Even Colbert was like, it's a
good argument.
It's a
You're
good
allowed
argument.
to have
Yeah.
debates like this, which
Yeah.
is great. But what he was talking about was
I know, and I forget what it was too.
It was
so good.
but it was such a great argument for it. It was compelling, and I'm like, it was so well done. It's gonna come back to me after this episode, probably. We're gonna have to go find it.
I know, no, and it was such a valid point though. It was just like and he goes, I never thought of that before.
Yeah.
So the term conspiracy theory is in its own a show.
Oh, I know the answer. I'm sorry. You're
Thank
gonna have
God.
to
Thank goodness.
cut that part out. And we'll circle back. Pretend I just got it right off the top of my head. He was saying, hey, listen, if you got rid of all the science textbooks and all the Bibles,
yes.
and humanity started over again today, 100 years from now, we would come to the same scientific conclusions. There would probably be somebody who came up with the Big Bang and atoms and matter. But there'd be all new stories about religion because
that's right. Science proves itself over and over again.
That was the point, right?
Yeah.
So simulation, we're going to find new information under the periods to change what we know. But the point is, it's ever evolving and ever growing, and they're fact based. What's number 2 conspiracy?
No, we're not done yet. We're not done simulation. We're still on a big thing. So I just wanted to go through a bunch of these points that were.
Maybe you could call the eye in the sky and have them reverse the simulation we just lived through. And if it is a simulation. Why was I in the doghouse this week? Who's messing with me up there?
Have you ever played a video game like Grand Theft Auto where you get run over by the car 10 times because it's funny?
I'm usually busy with the hookers.
Someone's playing your character. Excuse me. So the reason about simulation, there was a lot of there was a lot of situations where it made you think like it just made you think. You know, there wasn't necessarily a true answer.
A good conspiracy theory
but like the big one was not a big one, but there's a bunch of them. So artificial reality, what's real, and how do you define what real is? Was the initial question, and I thought, that's easy, and then, well, it's not easy because what is real? What you perceive is real, right?
The people running. I'll tell you this because you know me, I'm a practical joker. I love fucking with people. I can tell you, my sisters hate. Oh no, wrong button. Damn it. I love doing this. This is true of me. You know me. I love practical jokes. I'm full of shit on a good day, but you take the good. You're like, is he? Isn't he? Where's his? Keep him guessing, right? I love doing that. I love that in my life. But specifically, I have created Wikipedia pages to prove a point. I have spun balls of yarn. That to this day live on. Why not? No, I'll come out with them. I was talking to my sisters one day. I'm like, this is what this word derives from. It's something to do with, it was actually something to do with the Holocaust and Auschwitz and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, no way. I went home. I made a Sausages. I went home. I made a Wikipedia page all about how this word was invented. The next week, I'm like, I found this. And they're like, no way. That story lived on in our house for 10 years before I lived up to it. I swear to God, this is a fun one. We're going to get off topic, but you like my story. So this is what their podcast is about. I was with Shave Darlton down in California, and we were... what had happened was every time we went anywhere, and I mean anywhere, this guy loved Arby's, and I don't like Arby's. I'm not an Arby's guy. So the liquid pancakes, right? The liquid roast beef. So this is the story for the people at home.
It's hilarious.
So what happened was I'm tired of eating the shaved beef on a bun, and I have him convinced this is liquid roast beef. And he's like, there's no way. And I'm like, it's pancake batter. I took a school field trip there. They pour it out of a beer pitcher. It goes, that's how it's shaved so perfectly thin every time. And he's like, there's no way. So anyway, we go to Arby's, I don't know, a month later. And he goes to the bathroom. I'm throwing the guy behind the counter a $10 bill. When he comes out, I'm convincing him that it's liquid. Like there's,
Yeah.
So I'm making this the short version. But sure enough, he comes out. He's sitting at the table. I'm not eating your food. He goes, you're really not eating. I go, I'm telling you, it's liquid roast beef. I won't put this stuff in my body. So we go up, let's settle this once for all. And we ask this guy behind the counter, and I'm like, can you please tell my buddy here where this stuff comes from? And he says, sure. And he has this picture of like, I don't know, stale Pepsi. It's maybe it's beef broth. And he goes, so we pour this on the grill, and then it hardens like a pancake, and then we scoop it up and put it on the bun. And he's like, are you serious? Throws his burger in the garbage. And we leave, and we never eat at Arby's again. It was the greatest thing that I've ever pulled off. I love it, right? Poor Chave. So it backfired. It lasted for 4 years. He told every customer in the planet that came into our work, he's like, Arby's is liquid roast beef. There's probably still people out there who think that to this day, and I love that. I love that about me. But we were in California, and we were lost in the desert. We've been driving for 6 hours, and this guy's being a douchebag. He is hangry and needs food. And it was like this desert oasis in the middle of a 5-hour drive with nothing around.
Arby's.
There's no golden arches. There's Arby's. He goes, I'd rather starve to death. I'm like, oh. Now so I got to fess up. But for him, I mean, the point is I'm just smart enough to make Wikipedia pages and pay people $10 to spread misinformation. So why aren't conspiracy theorists? When they're so passionate about something, they're going to skew results.
Oh, well, for sure. So they can skew for what real results are too, though.
Yeah, no,
that's the whole point. This is, I think, the whole point. Yeah. So, talk about the Big Bang. That was a conspiracy theory.
The Big Bang is a conspiracy theory.
Yeah,
I can't categorize that as a conspiracy theory.
Even people that scientists that say it, it's still questionable.
That's how it happened. It's science, so I can't call that. I don't know that we can spend too much time on this one because it's not a conspiracy theory. It's a theory. Okay. And we learned this in high school. There's guesses and then there's hypotheses.
So why is the opposite not a theory?
You mean
like what if another scientist said
it doesn't exist? Happened? No problem. I'd love for another scientist to say it doesn't happen. Just tell me why.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot out there.
If you're reinventing this, tell me. Now you know me.
Now whether they take it or not.
I'm very, very big on kinetics, like on subatomic particles, and I really, really grasp this form of science. So I not only get the Big Bang Theory, but I love the Big Bang Theory. I think it's fantastic. I just the other day watched.
It's pretty simple. The Big Bang Theory.
Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, Interstellar or whatever.
Yeah. I watched it for the third time, and I'm like, this is excellent. There's some really good theories in there.
That was a dumb movie.
Yeah, you're dumb.
See, that was unreal. That wasn't true. They don't hide in a bookcase.
No. But the wormholes and the black.
Yeah. Oh, there's all that for sure.
And time and travel and yeah.
What about the Mandela effect?
I'm really struggling with some of these, man.
Me too.
Really struggling. I'm like, no, that's not
I have argued with the TV.
When you made your little list here to talk about, did you give me 5 or 6 Mandela
No,
effect
because
things?
I knew you would automatically have 50 of them, and I thought we're not going to go that deep.
There's no...
But the Fruit of the Loom one, the Flintstones.
There's no effing way that Tinkerbell didn't put that little star above the eye on Disney. There's no way she didn't. I've seen it happen. I mean, there's some of these where I'm like, that's a thing.
Yeah.
Lyrics on Christmas songs where I'm like, no, that's not the lyrics. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? There's another version.
Every one of them, I believed it. Like everyone, I was under the impression that was the truth.
Yeah.
And it wasn't.
Yeah.
So how is that? And it's not us. It's half the world.
No,
You know what I mean, like
it's
all
absolutely.
over every
what would
country.
be the purpose of the Mandela effect? First of all, why is it called Mandela effect?
Like the Joseph Mandela found it. Joseph.
So that it's called the like the Guinness
like when they
Book of
say
World
it's-
Records is because of the Guinness Beer Company.
It's Steve Guinness. I'm gonna get fact checked. It's not Steve, but
I think it's Steve
all
Guinness.
of these theories are from someone's name. Usually, it's from someone's last name.
Okay.
So it's
the Mandela effect. I mean, well, yeah. There's the Stella Awards every year for the Stella lady that had McDonald's coffee burn. And
we don't. That's fine. But we don't care about their names.
Shut up, Keith.
No, so this is part of that simulation thing. Like, why is that a thing, and why do so many people believe what we see, and how did it go away? Like, how did it not?
Okay,
happen?
so I have a theory
All
on
of
this.
them,
This
not
might
just
become
one.
the Keith effect. The Barris effect.
The Barris
This might be
effect,
right
yeah.
here on our podcast.
Copyright.
100 years from now, people are
Copyright.
coming back, drinking their roofie colada cup, saying, "I'll bet you this is where this started from." But I have a theory on this,
Okay.
on the Mandela effect, and here's what it is. My father owned a whole bunch of 45s.
Yep. Records.
For those who don't know, records, 45s, right? Singles. And he owned them for years and years and years, and they all got thrown out. And he's like, son of a bitch. I'm like, Dad, you don't have to worry. They all exist now on Napster, LimeWire. Like,
Yeah.
we're going back 20 years. And he's like, well, let's download them. And we download them. And he says, that's not the song, Keith. I'm listening to the very song. I've listened to it my whole life. He goes, I promise you, that is not the song. It sounds like it, but there's the drum beats just a little off. One lyric was changed. Something happened.
was changed.
And I'm like, why? Why would that? It's a re-recording. It's a pressing. It's a different thing. And then
They did that a lot though back in the day.
but I didn't understand that they did it until recently when
Even
I
today.
fully understood business. And Taylor Swift just did it. And it was, I don't know if you
Who?
know this, right? Yeah. She's dating some football guy.
Loser.
So this
That's
was a
gonna
really
end
good
well.
thing. This
That's
was
gonna
on
end in a
the
song.
this was on the Kelly Clarkson show. Kelly Clarkson was just spitballing ideas,
an
and
amazing
she says to on air, like just as like Taylor wasn't even there. She's just saying, "Hey Taylor, if you're listening, you know what you should do?" Because her record company was kind of screwing her, right? Because they owned all the rights to her songs. She
She's
says,
worth $42 billion, so she ain't getting screwed.
like, right. But here's why she's worth that much, because this actually happened. She says, if I were you, I would go back into the studio. I would re-record every one of them so that you own that
oh
recording.
yeah, I've heard that.
Almost exact.
That's brilliant.
Re-release the things. Now they're yours, and tell everybody to rebuy your albums called this, and same thing. Just a fraction of a change, but you own the originals. And then I'm like, well, that's what they did with Barry Statler and Chuck Berry. And
quite possibly then.
They
Yeah.
changed them just enough. Because there's a few old songs where I go back and I listen to them. I'm like, that's not the song anymore.
Yeah, I've never heard it that enough.
Yeah.
I'd have to go.
You're not a country
I never
fan, but
paid him.
I listened to, in the 90s, I listened to Alabama. They did this song.
I love Alabama.
Legit?
I was that country, not
Okay.
and I'm not necessarily a fan.
They did a song called
sucks.
Angels Amongst Us right after 9/11.
Suicide songs.
Suicide songs. You're not
even
allowed to
say
say
that.
that.
We didn't. We said shoe size. My shoe size song.
Messages. Anyway, they do this one song called Angels Amongst Us. And I remember the video. I remember him sitting there. They talk in the beginning, and I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever. And I've been trying to find it for Chase, and it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist here. I finally found it buried in the 84th page of a YouTube thing, not available for download. I'm like, here it is. This is the version.
Yeah.
But it's the one I had
That's
in my
crazy.
tape deck in my truck. And I'm like, why does that not exist anymore? Glitch in the Matrix,
Maybe something he
Mandela
said.
effect.
Maybe Mandela effect.
Somebody just doing it for money. So I do believe Disney took Tinkerbell off of there. I do believe that these things just disappear.
All of them?
I don't know.
That's the problem. I could see some of them, like that Fruit of the Loom, the cornucopia that was on there.
That existed.
I know.
That existed.
But it didn't. There's nothing that shows that it did.
Who's the guy that, not Tupac, his name's not Tupac.
Biggie?
Black guy that played the genie.
Sinbad?
Sinbad. Absolutely
I love
played
Sinbad.
a genie. He was a genie. They're like, oh, that didn't exist. I'm like, yes, it did.
I know. I had the movie at the store, but then you can't find it now.
Well, then did you have it at the store?
We rented it. Maybe it was somebody else. I mean, Bin said,
Like you
Bin
watch
said.
PG movies. Yeah, that's
I
big.
had to. So I'm just going to go over these quick because there's just a bunch because we got to move on. But so the question was talking about God. What did God do before? Because God created everything apparently. What did you do before? Just randomly walked around.
This is
right?
my argument. This is the reason for atheism or agnostic
Yeah.
people.
There's a lot of questions on all that. Deja vu. When you have deja vu.
Can I? Your
Did you hear
belly's
that? You
growling.
heard
Your
that?
belly's
Oh, that
growling
picked-
there a
it
little
picked
bit.
that up,
It picked
but it didn't
that
pick
up.
nothing
Yeah.
else.
I have a great thing on deja vu, and I've been trying to get you to read a book for years called The Celestine Prophecies. And they were, I read this book in my 20s, and it's absolutely influenced my life.
Yeah.
I like the podcast where we get into
Yeah.
stuff that we,
I have a book for you too.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go back and read the Book of Enoch is what I'm going to happen after this. Like I've got it on my list.
It's long. Just watch the
Worth
YouTube
it.
video of it. It's hard. It's a hard
Get the
read.
Cole's notes.
Yeah.
Have AI summarize
We
it
don't
for
really
me.
know those words.
So Luke Skywalker came into the Enoch village.
In a galaxy far, far away.
Anyway, this book, Celestine Prophecies, there's 9 prophecies. You come to find out they're written by the Mayans,
Oh, yeah,
right?
you told me about this one.
And essentially all of them are about sharing energy.
Yeah.
Kind of what we're talking about now with the Egyptians and whatnot. But there are things in there like, and this is, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. You ever done a thing where you wake up in the morning and you're talking to your wife and you're like, remember that guy from 25 years ago? I don't know, Steve Smith from 25 years ago did this thing. And they're like, oh yeah, I remember him. I haven't thought about him in 20 years. And the very next day, one of two things happen. You see him on the newspaper holding like, I don't know, a merit award, or you bump into him in Walmart and you're like, what are the chances of that just happened?
That's a person's name effect.
Okay. So the Celestine Prophecy talks about, hey, there's a reason that happened. It's kismet energy. It's pulling you together. If that happens, you stop what you're doing and you go talk to that person.
Yeah, and I never thought of doing that.
Happened to me 2 weeks ago. A guy that we know, Derek, who used to work up at the car lot.
Yeah.
Talking about him at dinner one day, just randomly talking about him at dinner. My brother-in-law goes, oh yeah, he's doing kind of the same thing you're doing for a living right now. And I'm like, really? 3 days later, I haven't heard of this guy in 15 years. 3 days later, I'm in a hardware store and I bump into him for the first time in 15 years. I stopped what I was in a hurry and I stopped what I was doing and said, there's a reason we're supposed to be talking right now. I don't know what it is.
Something will happen. That is the red car theory. Same idea. You want to buy a red car, you buy a red car, and then the next day you see 50 of the same red cars.
Right.
You didn't see them. Not the same, but same idea.
Yeah.
No, I believe in that. That's definitely something.
So as far as what led us to that quickly? That
Deja
was
vu.
the deja vu. So in the same book of Celestine Prophecy, they talk about deja vu. And it is a thing with energies where you're supposed to pay attention to that moment.
Mm-hmm.
But scientists will tell you, well, it's a lack of oxygen in your brain.
Yeah,
You need some
absolutely.
sleep.
There's a reason for that. But that's another thing too that, what's his name? The popular guy right now. Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah.
His answer would be that it's always something. It's like, oh, that's easily because like we just do this and that'll work that. Okay, fair enough.
Yep.
The other one was called the Drake equation. And I might have gotten this wrong. I might have written this down wrong, but it was basically of why are there no other civilizations out of 10 quadrillion other planets and stars on this?
Right. I'm familiar with the Drake equation.
So
you're
a liar.
No, I am familiar with it.
That's not a thing I made that up.
I'm actually
I don't
a
like
Neil
Drake.
deGrasse Tyson fan.
No, he didn't come up with that.
So infinite universes, infinite galaxies, and blah, blah, blah would be an absolute impossibility not to have, somewhere or another, of all the infinity, which is a number you can't comprehend. There's another Keith and Jeff sitting out there filming a podcast right now, drinking vodka.
Do you believe that?
It would be a statistical anomaly not to have
Not
it happen if infinity exists, which it does exist. So
yeah. So
yes,
somewhere I would think so.
I kind of have to believe it.
Yeah, I agree. There's got to be something.
Yeah.
Then there's a whole other thing about the number theory, the golden ratio, where it's like 1, 3, 5, 8, something like that. Whereas
Fibonacci sequence.
There's that.
Yeah.
So that's the Fibonacci. Sorry, the golden equation is 1.618, but the was it Fibonacci sequence was 1, 3, 5, 8, 15, something.
The number before, the two numbers before it add up to the
other ones.
So 1, then 3 and 5, and then 8, 5 and 8 is 13.
So then I got into like the plants. There's three leaves on this plant. There's 5 on this, and it just kept going and going and going and going and going. So the question with that is, why is that similar all throughout so many things like plants? Buildings,
so those are
people,
math, right? Yeah,
sort of things. Like, why is it still? So that was the simulation point as to why is it not random?
Well,
because
it's
consistent?
at the end of the day, everything is carbon and everything is atoms and everything is energy, right? So we're talking about fractals. You know what I mean by fractals, where different shapes, but they're all uniform. You've seen somebody take sand on a table and pluck a guitar string underneath it and see how the sound wave forms.
Mm-hmm.
Pluck a G versus an A is two different, but the shape is the same all the time. Those are fractals, right? or put battery leads on a piece of wood, and the designs meet each other in the middle and they burn a certain way. All fractals, all energy, all Fibonacci, all of them math related.
Everything's, yeah. And there's a mathematician will tell you everything can be achieved with a math equation or answered by a math equation.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So that being said, all of that was an argument as to why we're in a simulation as opposed to why we're not.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of good, valid points. And for me,
are we still back on the simulation one? I thought we did 4.
No, that just finished all that. So
look at a circle. Can we get full circle?
The other ones will kind of come.
It's a math equation for how we got there.
This might be a long episode. So the next one is pyramids.
Yeah. When you were in school, were you taught that King Tut was buried in the middle of the Great Pyramid?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure, on the 5th level, behind some chamber, and blah, blah, blah. Oh, and there was a little tube that shot out to this star on this day during equinox.
Yeah, I didn't think nothing about it. Yeah,
I was like, okay, cool. Thanks for teaching me that. They all believed, the whole world believed it. Then Graham Hancock came along, and what I'm loving, by the way, and I can't remember is that TikTok and YouTube and all these people come along, and we are no longer trapped in 5 news outlets or textbooks telling us what's what. We get real people talking about real things.
Yeah.
You also get misinformation. You have to be able to smart enough to find.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Have to go through, because what I was going to say earlier at the beginning of this thing with the conspiracy theory, whatever you want to believe, you'll find.
Yes,
regardless of what it is.
You couldn't have said that better.
Yeah.
Chase woke up the other day. He said, "Copyright." Chase woke up the other day. He's, oh my god, that football player and pop singer got married. It's all over. And I'm like, did they? Stop what you're doing.
Yeah.
Google it.
Yeah.
So he does, and he's like, it's nowhere to be found. I go, but it's on every social media outlet because somebody just had AI create that and made $5,000 worth of hits on their channel. They're going tonight and having Arby's liquid roast beef for dinner, and they're happier than hell. And you're gonna go tell all your friends that Taylor and Travis got married, and then they're all gonna make fun of you and call you a liar. Because you're hook, line, and sinker, buddy. You were fished right in. AI is scary.
I watched one the other day on TikTok. It was Joe Pesci, and his aged. He was sitting on his chair or a couch and talking about politics as to why not to vote so and so in and what they're going to do, and he knows on his good thing. Man, was it real?
And then did you Google it? Were you smart enough to Google it?
No, I didn't, because you could tell. Like, I mean, honestly, you can pretty much tell. And then go to the comments, and it's like, I love Joe Pesci. Like, it's got to be true. Or I love my cousin Vinny, so it's got to be true. Yeah. Like the people that follow that sort of a thing. But the pyramids thing for me, I got into the pyramids kind of at a middle age, not middle age, 20s. Really started.
For those at home, Jeff Bright and I sit on a boat in the summertime, smoking cigars, drinking whiskey, and our wives are like, I wonder if they're cheating on us right now. We're so far down
pyramids and
the Tutankhamun fucking kids, he was actually so 13 years old and crossbred, and that's what we're doing on our days.
And then we invite our wives, like, no, we don't want to listen to you friggin' morons talk about.
So we're both well adept on the period
concrete
stuff, right? Yeah.
But my thing was, and I can't remember this guy's name. He's like the head guy of Egypt now, the guy that won't allow anybody into the pyramids. Yeah, I can't remember his name.
Arbutton. I know who you're talking.
Can't remember, but anyways, once I started to hear that, I started to go, that's interesting. So what don't they want you to see?
Right.
What is sort of a thing? But then the coolest thing is over the years, there's so many people that have did these things. Graham Hancock is amazing. He was an eye-opening experience, as well as some dude on TikTok who went to Egypt and grabbed a drone. He's like, to hell with it. I'm going to fly it up or see. Or no, he landed. He landed or something like that. And it was, but he could see the actual. Well, apparently it's actual, video footage of the top of the pyramids and then how it was like. Because the majority of it is we don't really know,
right? There's people who know, and then why are they covering that up? And I get it, because if they don't cover it up, but I mean,
well, now is the newest.
You know what makes me mad about this? It's 2025, and we just hit it with LiDAR. Like LiDAR is what went down and found all these columns.
Yeah, no, I can
see. It's 2025. This has been for certain for the last 100 years. There's been people hardcore studying this, including Graham Hancock, who I have a lot of respect for, talking about water erosion at the base of the Sphinx, saying this can't exist and here's why and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, we're just finding it out this week. Like something's up there.
Well, everything, we're behind in everything.
But now I'm watching these guys every day, because now that I found it, it's on my algorithm.
Yeah, and
somebody walked down one of the spirals. No, they didn't.
Oh my God.
Like
you should see how it blew up. It's been 60 miles deep, and somebody they
so
lowered
here's
some
your
professor
conspiracy
down
theories.
in
I'm
there.
like, oh, you're wrecking it for the
like,
rest of us. So find the true stuff.
And then the drawings they come up with, like the people that have created this new drawing about what it really is. And then when you actually see the scan, you're like,
now, it does make sense for it to be an underground water source, and it does make sense for sand to have been buried over the years.
If everything's up to this point has been there's water at the bottom.
So now, if I'm I don't want to say a conspiracy theory. I have a theory. My theory, because we've always, how did they build these pyramids? It wasn't done by people with ropes and pulleys and sand. I'm telling you, it is not hard to imagine if there was a running water system under there, and these cylinders were tubes to bring the water up, like wells where they could force the water up. You could float every one of those things and put them in place perfectly.
How do you
put them on floaters?
How do you tray that? Like, how do you take a straw and stick it in the ground, and then the water's coming up? Like this is like the pyramids are massive.
Yeah,
and that would be I can't say it's not true.
Listen,
I'm not leaning that way.
I can take a cruise ship built out of 1 million tons of metal and make it float across the ocean.
Shape.
I can make a rock float on a bunch of balloons till I get it in place and then pop those balloons and it's sitting perfectly.
So that's a good question, or that's a good point. Okay, so you got it there, but how did you get it cut?
Yeah, no idea.
Yeah.
From quarries quite a ways away and floated down. I have no idea. Maybe they flooded the area, maybe they didn't. These are just theories, but they're new theories, and I love that. So it's not pyramids to me are not conspiracy theory. They're theory, and that's all they can be till we know more. But we're learning more.
I think we know more than what they want to say. Because one of the things that I heard was the people
why suppress it?
Because that would change humanity. That would change the idea of the Bible. That would change the idea of religion. That would change the idea of that there's other superior beings.
There you go.
Other than God.
If there is alien life form on Earth, if Roswell happened and little green men are running around, do they suppress it because that would mean there's no basis for religion in the court systems?
Probably.
And in business and in countries and everything. If every religion we know...
I agree with that.
Like all wars on Earth have been fought because of religion. With the exception of the last one with the bushes and the oil. But but they're all over religion. I mean, the majority of killings on Earth have been fought in the name of religion.
Yeah.
If there were no religion anymore, we would change our court systems. We would change swearing on a Bible. We would change the swearing in of
Would everyone just be bad then? Or the people that believe, would you be bad?
At that point, it's up to mankind to govern what's right and what's wrong.
The right to carry, boys. That'll be your governing
back
factor.
To who's right this bit, and who's got enough money to carry the next election to say yes, transgender and all that. Maybe that becomes the new law in the new Bible 1,000 years from now.
So I think that's the idea behind it. I think that they know, because it's very interesting that when you look at all of the hieroglyphics, that there's nothing that states how they built it
in any of them,
any of them, but they're everywhere. The hieroglyphics are everywhere. And the other thing that was interesting was, how is it there was a pyramid here on this part of the planet, and then the exact pyramid sort of on the other part of the planet?
Yeah.
When there was no messengers going back and forth going, hey boys, you need to build it like this, or try building it like this, right?
I've walked up the Chichen Itza in like north of Peru there in the Mexico country, which is an exact replica of something that exists in the African jungle. The other side of the world back then, without ships being built, that's not a thing.
Do you see, we can't even build steps.
Right.
Walking steps going up. Something.
Yeah, with that kind of precision nonetheless. Like, yeah, that's impressive stuff.
So, the other thing, we go back to the Book of Enoch, he talks about it. He talks about the Nephilims, the giants. They came down.
Or
the Nephilims or whatever. He talks about them, but it's suppressed, like all that information. And why didn't it get put in the Bible? So I think it would be a massive situation if we figured it was aliens, or we call them aliens. They're not little green aliens. Because people from outside of this planet.
Here's one for you. I know that we're going over. You don't mind if we go over time anyway. You enjoy it sometimes.
No, we still got a couple more to go.
Easter. So we got Easter coming up in a week or two. And this was I had two fascinating things in my life. So I'm a big proponent of studying religions and whatnot. And I love theology, whether what my beliefs are is irrelevant.
Is irrelevant, yeah.
But the point is, back in the day of, the Ides of March. You're familiar with that day, Jeff, right? Caesar was stabbed in the back a little bit. Some guy, not very important. But anyway, back then, what had happened was there were Yeah,
Those are one of those.
Pyatt Dempsey. The
Pyatt Dempsey.
So back then there were two forms of this. So the Roman Senate was around, and they're like, what do we do? We're trying to control the people, but half the people believe in this new Jesus character, this Christianity thing. We got to vote whether or not we accept this, and if we want to win the next election, much like happening in Canada right now, we're gonna have to listen to what the people want, and the people want. Well, half of them want transgender or not transgender. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At the time, half of them wanted Christianity versus
Catholicism.
No, that's the same thing. Christianity and Catholicism are the same. Like it's a form of it.
Catholic is the main.
Why can't I think of the other one? I can tell you why, because there's too much Pyatt Dempsey in this class. Anyway, at the time, there was the religion. It starts with a P. But they had a huge. No, that's also Christianity, dickhead. They had this huge argument,
Progressive
and that's it. You nailed it. All right. At the time, they had this huge celebration in the month of April. Right? This is all had to do with the Ides of March, by the way, but huge celebration in the month of April. And it was all about fertility. So it was all about the symbolism. The symbolism for it was, rabbits, because they mass multiply, or they F like rabbits.
Get it done. Yeah.
Look, and I didn't swear. You almost thought I was going to say fuck there, and I didn't. So they F like rabbits, but that was their symbolism for this particular, it was the time of fertility, right? In this religion. Christianity came along, and the Roman Senate voted, and they're like, but if we vote in Christianity, we're going to lose this thing. Hold on. Easter. Whatever the one was called first was called Ishtar.
This is the Santa Claus story.
This isn't a conspiracy theory. It is like the Santa Claus story. It's exactly right, but invented by Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola, yeah.
Ishtar was the name of this holiday. It was the third moon of the third Sunday of Easter, or whatever. The third Sunday past the full moon. Which is why it changes every year. But it was a fertility thing. So they're like, okay, we're going to have Christianity, but we can't lose this particular holiday. So Ishtar becomes Easter. And although Jesus walked out of a cave, we're going to celebrate it with a bunny and rabbits, the Easter bunny, because it closely represents
Cadbury.
And I'm like, oh my God, this is genius. It's all genius, but it's all human beings who got together, decided what the laws are. It's Coca-Cola inventing a red and white man.
Go back to a lot.
And 100 years from now, we're all like, yes, that happened.
Yeah.
No different than King Tut is sleeping in a tomb, or religion, or
nothing.
Big Bang Theory. It's a thing.
Okay, let's carry on. We're gonna circle back real quick after we get there. Moon landing is the next one.
All right. Yes, we landed on the moon.
Are you sure?
Yes.
You say that with authority. However,
if we didn't, we would already be exposed. I mean, so we've had several moon landings, right? We haven't been back in
everything was
79. Oh, there's still actually, it was 2 weeks ago, India floated a thing around there, took high-def pictures of the footprints on the moon, and they're like, well, here's the remnants. Like, what's up? But India.
So why couldn't that be fake?
Because what's in it for India? It would be, in fact, Russia right now. It would be in their best interest to go up there and say, hey, United States, you're lying bastards. Worldwide collusion? It would have to be.
Careful, COVID. Careful. Careful what you're saying.
That's a valid argument, COVID.
These are one of those things, like, I don't know what to believe on that situation.
Right.
Because I think if you're in a higher power, I think there is a collusion is a word, or is there some form of like something like that? There was the movie recently. Because none of it makes sense.
You're not a movie watcher, but there's a movie that just came out with big name actors in it where they talked about the moon landing. It was kind of a farce on it, but while we were landing on the moon, they also had a studio set up at NASA saying, should we lose camera footage, or we got to show the Russians we were there. They were ready to. Well,
wasn't it Stanley Kubrick that they hired?
Well, it was his cameras and whatnot that they used on the moon, right? So Stanley Kubrick had a bunch of lenses.
Yeah, but he was part of they recreated some of the photos because some of them got ruined or something like that. They just couldn't carry the camera back and forth.
Maybe they probably used some of those and not wanting to get caught in a lie. I think the whole thing is a conspiracy.
Well, I think that's part of it. Like a movie person put in a thing. Now, the other thing for me is, I honestly, with this, I don't know what I believe truly, because I'm skeptical on everything. So I'm 50-50 on there. Like, could it have happened? Sure. Absolutely. Could it not have happened? Sure.
Yeah.
Like,
you could sway me.
Who was the first? Like, it was a race to get there, and then conveniently they did it. But I mean, they've did it multiple times. I don't believe they don't go out there. Like, I do believe that they can go. I'm a big SpaceX fan, and I love watching that. And the best thing is when you watch, the Starship go up, they have the greatest internet network in the history of the world with,
communication,
Starlink,
right?
And they have all the cameras on the phone, and even that is sketchy to work at best. Now, it's had some amazing things. The best part is
Richard Nixon on a
on the landline phone talking as clear as day. The best connection ever.
Neil?
Yeah, and the Starship's not even there, not even halfway to the moon, and they're having technical difficulties with the greatest thing in the world. So some of those things are very, very questionable.
Like we said at the very beginning of these, I could be swayed one way or another.
Yeah.
But right now, I've heard the same tired arguments, been disproven too long to say I'm done with that argument. Well, here's another one for you. Here's your Jeff Bezos and all these guys going to space right now. Have you ever seen Neil deGrasse Tyson talk about this? He goes, all these guys like Jeffrey Bezos who just, going up for space and their privatized flights right now.
Yeah.
Do you know where they're going?
No, I don't. I don't follow Blue Origin.
So
I don't follow
if
them.
this is the Earth, okay, and the moon, and the moon is my fist.
Here, I'll do the moon.
Okay, yeah, you be the moon. Here's the moon. Here's the Earth. When these guys go up in Starlink, William Shatner went into space and whatnot. Here's where they were.
Yeah, they're not far.
Like they're barely outside of the stratosphere. So to get up to here is
it's
a
thing.
feat.
It's a
feat. And using gravitational pulls. So when Musk is like, hey, it's by 2029 there will be a human being that steps foot on Mars. I've been to NASA. You know me. I've been several times now to NASA. He's right. So they're getting there, and they're making,
which is interesting because it is the most highly advanced. Give me this thing.
Okay.
Give me the pen.
Seems inappropriate to have in a podcast studio.
Soft and fuzzy. Now I forget what I was going to say. The most highly advanced rocket ship in the history of the world, 10 million times more than the first NASA ship that went to the moon.
Right.
Still can't get to the moon. And the fun part, well, this could be a thing too, whereas NASA lost the diagrams of how to build it or something like that. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, I think that's all
part of it.
It
but
truly
to
is.
me, my only reason is that I question on both sides is because of that. I'm like, how is this the most sophisticated thing in the world can't get out of orbit? And here, those guys took some tinfoil, painted up a red wagon, and said, "Let's go."
They made it,
and they called on a landline.
Hey man, the Wright brothers. You want to go back?
How many times
is
your cell phone cut out? How many dead zones are there in your cell phone?
Absolutely.
But there is zero dead zone from the Earth to the moon on a landline phone. Ma Bell,
because of the money that went into it. Again, you go back to the Wright brothers.
There's not enough money that can make a phone work.
If you went back and said, "Hey, what can you make an airplane out of?" Well, these wooden sticks and this cloth. No, impossible.
Yeah.
Well, that's how they got to the moon, with wooden sticks and cloth. We've advanced
basically.
Since. Now we have 747s.
Not to say it can't happen for sure. I mean, it's definitely because look at how everything has program. Look at the cars.
I think they got there.
Those are wooden tires.
It'd be guys like you and I who got back there. They're like, we pulled that off. Holy shit! Let's not do that again. Like we got real lucky. Let's advance our technology a little bit.
Let's wait until Okay, the last real quick one. Not real quick, but it can be real quick. Is which was a big thing. Big pharma suppressing cures.
Oh, there's no way on earth there's not a cure for cancer.
Yeah.
No way there's not a cure for cancer. But at the same.
Recently I had a friend who was cured, who was apparently beat it. So I said, hey, as a cancer patient, did you hear any does a doctor say, hey, we could do this and that would take it away, but we have to go through this route? Or when they were teaching you or educating about cancer, was there anything that you'd be like, all I got to do is turn on my AM radio on 980, I can take it away?
Does it strike you as odd that no sitting president around the world has ever died of cancer?
Yeah.
Why? Why does it sit as odd that no great wealth, the Rothschilds and the Musks and
you never hear that.
The Bezos, why did they not get cancer?
Black people.
What?
I'm going to tell you a story. So wait a minute. Hang on a minute.
Please do.
The story of Bob Marley.
Okay.
Bob Marley's father was white and his mother was black. And he got cancer. That's how he died. And the Jamaican society blamed the white man for bringing the virus to them because they've never had cancer before.
Huh.
So stop and think about it. I'm not talking ghetto.
No.
I'm talking Caribbean style, like, from a different island.
Yeah.
That sort of, maybe they're all from an island. I'm going to get lambasted for that. But honestly, go look at the general vicinity of how many Jamaicans and Cubans do you hear have cancer?
Yeah, again, I a lot to do with cancer is, when my grandfather and grandmother died of cancer, she smoked 2 packs a day, but the surgeon looked and said, you want to keep smoking. Like, yes, it probably added to it, but the DDTs you were putting on your crops in the 50s, you guys were, had DDTs on your cornflesks in the morning. That's what caused your cancer.
Okay, so
they didn't have DDTs in Jamaica.
Well, that's the whole point. Like, and they said, like, so I said, because both of this guy's, his parents were lost to cancer, and they were heavy smokers. And I said, so, like, does tobacco really cause cancer? And he's like, the doctor said, and I thought this for years, once I knew how they were made and once I saw how a cigarette was made, it's not the tobacco or the nicotine, it's the drugs that they put in there. Right. The 132 different drugs that are, that get put into these things. I just watched a very interesting episode of Joe Rogan with a doctor as a lady. And she went into
Joe Rogan.
Yeah. You should come on our podcast. She was a doctor who went into all these things. She talked about vaccines and talked about the polio vaccine and stuff like that. And it was mind-boggling about how DDT played a major part in it. And of course, they said when the polio vaccine essentially never did anything, was never even real, something like that. I'm going to maybe get that wrong. But when they said everyone tested with polio, it was because DDT or whatever, everything else that they were using shared the same strain, shared the same sort of thing. So their test would be like, oh, you're near a farm that used DDT of spray or something like that. You have polio.
Yeah.
Take the vaccine.
Yeah.
And then all these people were dying because of, no, it was just polio that killed them, not the vaccine.
Science wasn't advanced enough now. You
should hear what they were saying about how they're scrubbing monkey balls and cow ulcers and
licking the backs of cat or
it's
frogs.
Still to this day, though. It's still, that's what half of that stuff is made.
Yeah.
But going back to what you were saying about the records, how the original record was different from the whatever, this woman had to get the COVID vaccine originally to keep practicing.
Yep.
And that's when she started doing a lot of research and doing things. So she said, like, we got the full list of what was in it because they have to teach you what was in it in order to, maybe because some people can't get it or whatever. But she said what she got and what got out in the public was 2 different things.
No kidding.
2 completely different things. So that was interesting.
Your subject's big pharma, and big pharma. We're talking in the top 5 businesses in the world, and when you can really wrap your head around what trillions of dollars is,
yeah,
man. I gotta say this: if I were the guy, you watch. You don't watch movies. There was a movie about it was Benedict Cumberbatch. He was playing Alan Turing, which the inventor of the computer, and it was invented because of the Enigma in World War II. They were trying to decipher the bomb, how it changes, and blah blah blah.
Oh, he deciphered was that the guy that deciphered that? Yeah,
the Enigma, right?
Okay.
So the day that they deciphered, he's like, "Oh my God, we just got a message that these 5 ships are being attacked today on the Atlantic Ocean. My brother's on one of those ships." And then he's like, "We cannot call off the attack. We have the ability to stop it right now, but if we do, the consequences of stopping that attack, they will quickly realize these people deciphered the Enigma, and the war will continue. But if we play it strategically right, we can't." And where I'm going with this conversation is, if tomorrow, you and me, magically right now, you spilled your drink and mine, and I don't know, one of your boogers floated it, and we cured cancer, we're like, holy cow, we have it.
Yeah.
We would have to have and this is you and me, we would have to have a very, very big decision on, like a conversation on, what would happen if we had the be-all, end-all cure for cancer?
Yeah.
World changing. And I don't mean, I feel bad for the people dying, but do you know how many people we'd put out of work? Millions.
Maybe.
Millions of people out of work. Do you know how much fundraising goes into cancer? How many, the trickle-down effects of
financials of it is crazy.
It would change. It would literally change it would be more valuable than oil.
The way everything,
more valuable than oil. So yes, kind of like finding the electric car.
for sure.
Yeah.
If you jump into it and dig into it and see how it even started, even how big pharma started and how it kept going and how it was pushed by all like the government, even to find out that once again, you have to do a little more research on this, but what they were doing to humans through the milk that the cows were drinking or
The
cows were creating
hormones and all that.
and the hormones and things about pre-doctoring the people to accept a vaccine, to have less immune to accept this vaccine for later on in life. Like that stuff is mind-boggling to know, and to think that it doesn't happen. I feel like you are.
No, we're
under a rock.
This isn't conspiracy theory. Your last topic, and this is I think it's our longest episode.
This is it.
But I love it. But Big Pharma does exist, and Big Pharma, like Spider-Man and Uncle Ben, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yep.
And even if you and I were in the position where we were holding the cure for cancer in hand,
we'd be dead.
We'd really have to discuss.
Just like the gentleman that actually did originally first create the cure.
Yeah, we'd really have to discuss, how do you put this in the public?
Yeah.
Can you? Is it responsible? Sometimes you can't give the mass public the answers to questions that they so desperately seek, like aliens or anything else, because it would cause
chaos.
Chaos.
It would cause.
So there are smart enough people to say maybe it's best just to leak little bits at a time.
Yeah, I don't know if that's good enough for me, but I do believe that. I do.
But
believe
I think that if I'm Jeff Bezos and I have cancer, I probably don't have it again.
Yeah.
A year from now.
Okay, so going back, let's recap. Living in a simulation.
50-50. Well, 90-10.
Okay. I think I'm 50-50 on that.
I'm 90-10 says 90 we're not. 10 says I would be immature to say. I'd be immature to say there's no God. I'd be immature to say there's no Big Bang Theory. I'd be immature to say
for
that
sure.
there's no simulation.
That makes sense. So I'm 50-50 on the idea of it. I am 100% don't care. You know what I mean?
I like that.
Either way, I'm going to die. Pyramids, how were they built?
Don't know. Can't wait to find out.
What's your theory? If you had to pick one.
I believe that they are
not too much detail.
I believe that they're an energy source. Thing. Are you asking me how they were built or why they were built?
How, not why.
If it's how, it was done in a series of water. It's water related. Yeah,
Okay.
it's all pneumatics and hydraulics.
Okay, I think it's me. For me, I would lean more towards the alienish type.
Really, that's a legit thing for you.
Yeah.
I can't go
and
there.
I don't want to say the word alien because people are it's not little green men running around. I think it's a higher, more advanced,
more
advanced
absolutely. But what's more important to me than that is, and we didn't even get into where they're placed on Earth, and
can't
the
prove
center
it,
of the
but
center
I
of
think
land mass and all that other stuff,
Yeah,
and where they're in Orion's belt. But what is important to me is not how, but why. Why?
So that's the secondary
That's my
thing.
big
Yeah,
thing,
I think it's an energy source. Moon landing.
Yeah, buddy, I've been to NASA. I've touched the soils. We've been to the moon. I'm confident of it. I'm just confident of it, and I know the future plans. So I'm 100%. We've been to the moon.
Oh, I think we have. I think it was just that maybe the first one might be an interesting.
Sure.
I could be swayed one way or the other on that one. And then Big Pharma, I think we both agree. There's obviously some collusion going on, or some cahoots.
I love it when you call me Big Pharma. It's Big Papa, B-I-G. And with that,
we have got to go. So I guess what we're looking for is, what are your thoughts on big? And what are your thoughts on
I don't care what
conspiracy
people say.
theories?
People are fucking. Even our listeners. Don't write it. I don't care what you think. I know what I think.
A conspiracy theory.
Good episode, Jeff. Right?
Cheers.